This video is another in the first read series where I read a poem for the first time by a poet I don't know or know very little about. This one is by a poet I don't know at all, never even heard of, but that's okay. That's how you meet people. I don't read these to teach them or explain them really, just to have a first experience, what got me into poetry in the first place. And I picked them fairly randomly. So this one is from the Australian New Zealand journal Odalus that Mark Young runs. And I picked it. It's a prose poem. I just kind of randomly picked this one. It's called Third Eye, which, third eye evokes, images of having a third eye that is the eye of enlightenment, where you're becoming enlightened to something. So there's a definite play off that. This one, I always like to look at the form when I look at something. This one, it looks like a prose poem form. It's got a single stanza line in the beginning and the end, and the other three are a little bit longer, and maybe we'll see why when we get through it. Let's just go do it. It looks like a beginning and end with that single line, like it wraps it up and starts it, but let's see. To become a rose, I ate roses for a week. Just, there's all kind of things jumping out on this one. It's like, why would you want to become a rose? And can you become something by eating it, ingesting it, and it makes it brings up all kind of questions. This is really talking about eating, or conceptualizing, eating what a rose is conceptually or something. I don't know. It is kind of a fun line because it already throws us off our game as, okay, we're reading something that is going to be straightforward, real story. It kind of pushes us back already. It defamiliarizes us, from the world that we live in. The first serving tastes like grass grown in a mountain pasture. So the rose tastes like grass grown, I'm assuming, in a mountain pasture. Mown at dawn by sleepless moonlight-cured boys. Well, this is a very specific type of grass. It's grown in a mountain, and it's mown by these sleepless moonlight-cured boys, which really kind of feels like we've just jumped out from the regular world into kind of some, a third eye, astral projection or dream or just imaginative story here, right? As we're tasting this rose to become a rose, and it tastes like something else, which is grass, and it's mown by these sleepless moonlight cured boys. And I don't know what these boys have been cured of, except for they're sleepless and the moonlight has cured them. I dreamt about those boys. I'm not sure why the speaker does. Is that what we're doing now? Are we in the middle of a dream? I don't know. Is it something coming back so that you had this dream, and when your third eye opens, when you try to become a rose, it comes back to you. You remember it. I'm not sure the speaker remembers that is not you. I hid under an anthill. Why would you hide under an anthill? That seems like a horrible place to hide. But it's interesting, right? Heart buzzing like a bee. Yes, you could see how somebody's heart would be buzzing like a bee under an anthill, but I'm not sure that's why it is. Knowing they wish to cut me open. So, knowing they wish to cut me open. Which I think of the they here is the boys, but we also have the ants as well, and the reference is not super clear. Knowing the boys want to cut me open, that's a pretty rough image, and I'm not sure why these moonlit cured boys would want to cut somebody open. It's something you've dreamed about. Or is it the ants wanting to cut you open because you're under their anthill? Not extremely clear here. It definitely feels like this push for becoming a rose is growing more imaginative as you go through it. It's growing more complicated as you go through it. And it's bringing up all kind of things like old dreams. These images you have that might be beyond your regular day today. I was afraid they might hear my heart and find me. So again, I don't know whether this is the boys or the anthill. If it's the boys, it kind of changes because they wish to cut me open is a really harsh image. Why why would these boys want to cut you open? But is it that they cut you open in terms of trying to figure out who you are? This next one, they might hear my heart and find me. Does that mean the heart is buzzing like the bee? The heart is afraid, and so it's buzzing like a bee, or the heart has dreamt of this boys and wants something from this boys, wants the boys, or is it like the ants? They can hear that you're there under their anthill and come. This is definitely a complicated image. Usually, sometimes I should say, I think it's complicated images have images that have gotten away from the poet, but I don't think this one is. This one feels like it's very dreamlike, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. So I actually find it pretty interesting myself. I was afraid they might pull me by the hair from this coffin, and that one definitely feels like the boys in that case. And I don't know why it's a coffin, except for it's under the anthill, or maybe we've just shifted gears itself as a place she's hiding from the boys. Feels like a coffin. I was afraid they might make me feel alive, which is kind of the, is a weird spin on this, right? Because in the beginning it feels like the boys are going to come and cut you open, which feels like they're going to do violence from you. But this end, this person is like they're in a coffin, like they're dead, and the boys are going to make you feel alive, and that is something to be afraid of. Be afraid of feeling alive. But as, I don't know what the third eye thing is. Is like the fear of enlightenment, the clinging on to things that are going to die, that are mortal or something. I'm not sure. It's interesting, like, twists and turns of this one. The second serving, so we had the first serving in the beginning. So the second serving, the second time, eating roses for the week. They taste like grass, and they're grass again in this one. They were grass in the first one, but grass cut from a grave. I don't know if this is playing off the coffin image that we just had, the death we just had. It tastes like grass from a grave. I'm not sure how grass from a grave tastes different than grass from a mountain pasture, but you can kind of imagine it that way. That night I dreamt of growing old. So she had these, and she dreams of growing old, or the speaker, whoever the speaker is, whatever gender or non-gender. That night I dreamt of growing old, of sleeping naked in a flower field, which is kind of interesting here, because it almost feels like we throw back in the beginning. That night I dreamt of growing old after having eaten this grass from the grave, but it's pushing you back to a flower field, which is kind of vaguely, I think, how we kind of imagine mountain pastures, but here she doesn't say the grave is in some kind of cemetery or something. It's just a grave. And as I slept, my body shrank and my skin dried and wrinkled until I was nothing more than gray hair, limp flesh, and folded skin. This feels like what something feels like in a coffin, right? This is what happens when you're in a coffin. You shrink up, which is, makes me rethink the second stanza a little bit. Like, so, is this person rethinking the body and how the body is going to shrivel with the third eye opening up, or has something violent happened to this person? I'm not sure. The third tasted like moonstones, which really throws me back to the beginning. The moonlight cured boys. Like, the moonstones, are they related? These boys have been cured of something. And she says, the speaker says, I was afraid that might make me feel alive. In the beginning, it's almost as if the speaker doesn't want to feel the life. So will these moonstones do the same thing? Moonstones dipped in mother's milk. So there's a lot of alliteration right here. It's really pulling out the M's, moonstones and mother's milk. That night I dreamt. So there's a dream here too. So is that the structure of this? We have tasting grass and then a dream. I'm not sure. That's what it seems kind of like what's going on. But the first one doesn't mention that night I dreamt. That night I dreamt I was a stone, a rain and wind-whipped pebble. So we have moonstones, and the speaker's dreaming about being a stone, a pebble here. I knew I'd lain in that field for centuries. So, that field, we had a field in the last one which felt like a grave. Has this person been dead for centuries, like a stone? I knew that I would be there for centuries to come until finally I might begin to soften and flow. It is almost like you become, everything is faded away until, all your body is gone. But there's this consciousness that's still there after all of this time in this field. These are my memories of roses and the weeks when my third eye opens. This kind of memory of what it was like to become a rose or try to become a rose, and memories of roses in general during these weeks when the third eye was open, but it suggests the third eye is not open now, so maybe the enlightenment is gone, but during that period of enlightenment, this is what came from it. Interesting. There's so much going on in this poem. I feel like I could spend a whole lot longer playing around with it. But I think, that's enough for now. It's enough to, get me excited about what's going on this. So I'm going to try to pronounce this poet's name, Réka Nyitrai. Réka Nyitrai. I probably just butchered the poet's name. But it's actually, I think, a fairly fascinating little piece. So I'm curious to read more by this poet.